Okay, so you guys should be able to see me in there, right?
Yep.
I'm red, white, and yellow. It means I'm the warmest thing in there. So we're going to try to keep a person in there at all times. It's going to be difficult because it is 3 people. Also, people don't like to be filmed. So again, I know it's weird. I'm handing you a cell phone and acting like we're going to create a YouTube video, which is exactly what you're doing, because it is going to go to YouTube so I can splice it all together. As great as this hardware is, the software sucks. So I will give you points for starts and stops on this. But what we're looking for on here are the blue and black spots to move on their own. Those are our coldest areas, black being the coldest, white being the hottest. So I have it set up on like that so that way we can remember. But when those black and blue spots start taking shape, we obviously have something, and I have obviously other tools to measure it, make sure everything's accurate, and make sure it's legit. So I'm not going to go based off of, oh my god, check this out. Do I capture something on this every night? I do not. I probably capture 4 to 5 very solid pieces of evidence per year. So without us recording, we'll never know. The other thing is that it does record audio, so it's another point of EVP work for us to be listening for other voices. So it's obviously we're going to have the one on my bag that stays on my shoulder, plus this guy's going to record audio as well. You're going to keep this camera on your left-hand side horizontally whenever you're recording, and of course you don't want to be like filming somebody's car. People don't like that either. But again, it could be just kind of a casual hold, and you kind of keeping an eye on it. With not many people out here, they're going to be very skeptical, like, what the hell is this guy doing? Why is he filming me? So when it's a little busier, the other tours know, oh, there's Nick, there's that guy. He has all the gear. There's going to be a blue dot bouncing around. Let me find it. So it's right about here, right in the black spot. That's kind of where it will show up in your recording as well. So when I'm spot checking this, I'm just looking to see where that blue dot is landing. If we point it up towards the sky, it's automatically going to default to the sky because there's nothing to measure. It only measures surface temperatures. So there's nothing in the sky to actually measure. So I did leave the center crosshairs on there as well, so if you want to measure something directly, just simply move your camera to find wherever spot you want to go. So if I want to measure that car, obviously I'm going to have to move the camera to get to the car, but he's gone. But you can kind of see where I set it up where it's nice and easy to use. Your cheat sheet bar right here is for real time only. That will not show up in your video tomorrow. This is giving you the highest and the lowest temperature. Right now it's showing that there's a variance of about 25 degrees. So am I looking for something a lot higher than that? Yeah, it's chilly out here. You guys live down south, so I mean, you guys know. This is kind of chilly for us. But again, this will kind of give us a good eye shot. When it's square, it's recording. I do start the recording at the very beginning, so you have that kind of tutorial. It's going to go to you. Let's get you set up. I can't wait to see what you're going to get out of it, as much as you've talked my ear off already. So spirit boxes, have you ever used one?
No, I have not. I have used other devices, but not a spirit box.
Okay, so spirit boxes can be used in multiple different ways. With you never using one of these before, and most people that come on the store have never even seen one of these, I have it set up to be super slow. In your TV shows, it's usually just white noise and just kind of mess. I have it slowed down on purpose because I want you to hear the song lyrics, the DJs, and the commercials. If any of those things pop up and you can make them out, so if it says, buy a Buick today, I want to know what that says.
Okay.
The word buy might be something relevant to our location, a person I'm talking about in history, or something going on with one of us. So, again, you're going to have an earbud in. I'm going to give you a fresh earbud. You're going to keep it because earwax is gross. I don't want it back. I buy them in bulk. But it's already sweeping. The cool thing is, I'm going to write down everything you tell me you hear if I feel like it's relevant to our location. And then I'm going to spot check the recording tomorrow morning before I hand it back to you and give you 15 to 20 more markers, whether it's relevant or not. It's going to help train your ear on what I'm listening for. So anything, obviously, with the word Charleston in it, I'm going to omit. I'm not, because we're listening to Charleston radio stations. So if it comes up with a specific number, like 1947, which is the team that Big John played for, who's a football player, we'll get into that in a moment, but if 47 pops up while we're standing here, that's obviously relevant. And I'm going to show you more about this once we get started. Okay. So if you can hang on to that, I'll pull out a set of earbuds for you. And then I'm going to throw a spirit box on me, and I'll show you how that one works, because it does work a little bit differently. Okay. Let's get you squared away first. So let me get this crazy twist tie off of here, and I hate these new earbuds that I just picked up. They don't have bags, so I just can't hand them off and say, hey, you set it up. Not to mention they're not the best quality. That's why I don't care about getting them back. Where is it? Perfect. Okay, so you can leave one in all night. That's how most people do it.
Okay.
In certain locations, if you want to pop both in so that way you can control it.
Okay.
It's already sweeping and recording, so the only thing you need to do is control the volume to your liking.
Okay.
That volume is a wheel at the top. It's kind of hard to feel, especially with a glove on, but it is kind of indented in there. If you hit the button by accident, like click it over, you shut it off and we have to reset it up. Not a big deal. We'll just have 2 recordings.
Okay. And it's supposed to be changing channels?
Oh yeah, I want it sweeping real slow, every channel, probably thousands of times. This one I'm going to be using, it'll stay in my pocket, that's why I wear the hoodie when I have smaller groups like this, so I can just toss it in, keep my hands free. This one's going to give us a word from time to time in the center of the screen, kind of like an ovulus that you guys have seen on television. An ovulus only has 2,048 terms. This one has over 9,000. This is also an app. It's a phone app, downloaded, upgraded to get the massive word list. 80% of what comes out of this thing is going to be bullshit. It's not going to mean anything. The other 20%, if it's relevant, person, place, location, something like that, I'll obviously give you, look at that, it says north. We are north of where we're starting. Just kind of a small relevancy, like how I would clue things together. I'm not going to put any notes next to that unless something else pops up with it. If it says Carolina after that, something's going on with the 2 of you.
Okay.
Because it would be North Carolina.
Yeah.
You see where I'm going?
Yeah.
But I will give you the full word list because it does give you a timestamp with everything, so that kind of helps me spot check all the other things. So if I see something that's relevant, oh, it was at 8:48, I know where we're at, and so forth and so on, because I have everything kind of timed out. I'm going to clear out last night's list. They actually had a pretty decent list. They had about 6 or 7 terms that were, look at that, it's telling me to go slower. I do talk very fast, I'm from Ohio. But again, that word north will not be on there. It doesn't look like slower will be on there either, so the next word will start your full word list, and we'll kind of take it from there. Okay. So I'll pull this out from time to time just to kind of see where we're at and see if anything matches up to what you have going on. So, just so you know what else is inside the bag, I do use lasers, I have millimeters, I have temperature checks, I have motion detectors, and I also have a IR cam. So everything gets kind of crazy when I have 10 people out here because I got to keep up with 10 folks and teach everybody how to use them.
How to use the equipment.
Yeah, that's why I keep my group so small.
Yeah.
So, let me take another drink of water. You guys can ask me a question or two if you have one.
Okay. And it's not going to be very clear what I hear as far as words go, correct?
You might get half a sentence, you might get a phrase, you might get one piece of a word. It just depends. Whatever comes through. I want you to think of that thing as kind of like Bumblebee from Transformers.
Okay.
He didn't have a voice box, so he used the radio to talk to us. It's the same principle.
Okay.
So the game we're playing it's a 50-50 shot. The stuff that you're going to hear is going to be relevant. The one I'm using is an 80-20.
Okay.
80, obviously 80% bullshit. The other stuff you hear, 50%, it's going to be BS. It's just going to be circumstantial. However, if we get very specific answers out of the questions we're going to ask tonight, that's where things start getting exciting. Let's start with Big John's. I do need to slow down. I'm losing my breath. You guys got me talking a lot. We got to get you going, man. So, Big John used to be a football player. This place was named after him. They just reopened it back up. But it was Big John's back in the day of 50s, 60s, and 70s. It said team? Nice. You'll see me write things down, too. I keep a little notepad, so I can put them in your notes. But 1947 New York Giants was his team. This place was named after him, and he owned it. This was his. He used to sit in the back of the bar, in the door behind me, and let the bartender know if the cadets coming over from the Citadel, if they were old enough to drink. One night, 2 guys come in, they're not old enough. His bartender throw them out. They leave pretty pissed off. They come back the next night and try to steal the cash register from the front of the bar. John sees what's going on, gets up from the bar, starts beating the shit out of him, just beating the hell out of him into the ground. A couple of shots go off. John gets hit in the neck with a bullet, and the bullet lands in the wall. John gets up after being shot, goes back to the bar, tells the bartender to get him another beer, get the 2 guys on the floor in ambulance. So, and John was the only one that got shot. Moral of the story is, don't get in a fight with Big John. But seriously, nobody died in that story. The irony here is that the place is haunted by the bullet hole. It's allegedly still here. People that sit in the front of the bar tend to get a little queasy, nauseous, or headache. So I hear it all the time. I just had dinner there and I couldn't finish my dinner. I was sitting in the front and I had a headache. Now it's gone. It happens all the time. So the only EMF I've ever gotten out of that place has been in the front of the bar. Now since they renovated it, I don't know if that bullet hole's still there. But I tell this story as a heated warning. If you feel any of those symptoms, you have to let me know. It's a very big deal. People have passed out. I have had to call ambulances. It gets ugly if people are sensitive like yourself. So I'm just giving you a fair warning. Let's get your mind off your own health. Let's talk about something else. Okay. Same building. We had a big earthquake here in 1886. If you've taken any Charleston tour, you already knew that. We'd all talk about it. This is allegedly where the first death occurred from that earthquake. The mantle you see in the middle, that white part, it actually goes around the front of the building as well. A piece of it broke off, struck somebody in the back of the head, and killed him. They say you could see his ghost in the middle of East Bay Street in the middle of the night. Again, I say allegedly a lot with that because I don't have any proof. A lot of hearsay with that story. It's also a great segue, so nobody's thinking about getting sick on the tour. So when I have moms here with their teens and whatever, they're all like, oh shit, what did I sign up for? Because this guy's telling me I might get a headache and my kids might pass out. So, you guys ready to go something?
I'm ready.
All right, let's go along some more. Let's go. You guys are an easy team. I know you talked a lot at the beginning, but you guys are soaking it in.
Oh, yeah, I'm listening. I'm listening to you, listening to this.
Yeah,
trying to decipher everything.
Listening to that and trying to listen to me at the same time is a task.
Yes. I'm figuring that out.
So, I told you we're going to be leveling up with each location. So, imagine when I have my groups of 10, everybody's got a device, and I have to show them hands-on how to do it. I can't type them up instructions. I have to show them.
Yeah.
This place is super easy. We're not going to spend a lot of time here. It's normally a place where I can just work with everybody one-on-one and then get into the much deeper history of Charleston. This is where we keep the horses for your carriage rides. The horses are inside, which is why we use earbuds on the spirit boxes. This is the same red barn that held horses that delivered milk and eggs to the residents of Charleston back in the day. So we're dating it to 1860 to 1920. Spirit boxes, this is not TV. Granted, with the toy that you had, and you said, is that you, is a yes or no question. That's really not appropriate when you're using a spirit box as advanced as the one you have. You want to, because if you say somebody here, like everybody wants to ask, and you hear no, that means somebody's still here. So that's the example that I normally give. Right, get a name, get something specific. In this location, when I have everybody start spreading out, I usually tell them to ask the question, if somebody's here, tell me what color the big red barn is. It's a great example because obviously you put the answer in the question. The word red might not be available to your song lyric or DJ or commercial, but blood, heart, fire truck, cardinal, all 4 of those things are specifically red. All of those would be an acceptable answer. What color is the big red barn? Cardinal. Automatically I think red. So that's acceptable. However, most of the night we're going to be dealing with folks that have multiple people with same names. So lots of Johns, lots of Georges, Elizas, that kind of thing. So a lot of times I'll require 2 different clues. Example, you hear the number 40 on your spirit box, and I get the word art on my word list spirit box. Art Faircloth was number 40 on Big John's team. That would be acceptable, putting clues together. So that's a lot of what this is. It's never going to be a full conversation, and you might ask a question and get an answer 10 minutes later, or it might go to my spirit box. We never know where it's going to go. That's why I like to throw as many devices out there as possible.
Yeah.
So
one might miss one. You never know.
Right. So I'm sure, like last night, the spirit box recording I had only had 3 things in my list that were relevant, and I'm sure once they go through it, they're going to find a hell of a lot more, because I always give you a ton of links to verify things, so that way you can say, oh, this was the story of Anne Bonny, this was the story of Eliza Pinckney, so forth and so on. That way you can go back and you have the research to be able to do it. That's the cool thing about this. Most people get here and are like, you're going to give us back everything? Yeah. We're not going to part ways. Yeah. An investigation is field work
ongoing
and research.
Yeah.
Always. Thermal, I think you got the gist of it. We want to try to keep somebody in view. You don't want to, film cars for too long. If somebody is going to their vehicle, you're just going to simply walk the other way or drop the camera like it's just a cell phone.
All right.
So, not to put you in danger of any way, but I don't like getting in screaming matches in the middle of the night. It's never fun.
Yeah.
So, let's walk. Have you heard anything?
I've heard some words, but it's not anything that I felt was relevant.
How do you know? That's what you guys keep me here for.
It's you can hear song lyrics and stuff like that.
Okay.
Of
What was the term that you heard over there? You heard team.
Team. Running through.
And writing in the dark with gloves on is always a task. That's a new skill I'm putting on my resume. All right, so you did hear team.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't pull out any EMF meters tonight because I had one on the side satchel of my bag last night because I also had another cancellation, which left me a party of 2. So I was like, I'm going to get out as much as I can. So there won't be any EMF readings because I can't see it, and you guys don't know what you're looking at. So again, I'm not going to do it, tonight because it was pointless. So turn it up a little bit. We're going to walk slowly as we go through here, and instead of talking about recent football players and ponies, we're going to go learn some real history. Fair?
Yep.
All right. Is this what you guys?
4 years.
4 years.
was a country song. Date?
Feel free to spit out those words, just like what you're doing right now. Interrupt me, do whatever you got to do, let me know what they are.
Okay.
In the event that I find that it's
Don't
relevant,
forget them.
if it's relevant, I'll stop and explain why it's relevant. If it's not, I'll just keep talking. So that's just kind of how this conversation goes. All right. So this is one of my biggest hotspots. Other tours won't come here because obviously there's nothing to see, right? It's a parking lot, a bunch of cars in it. This is the Eliza and Charles Pinckney Mansion site. So their mansion sat in the front of this lot. Eliza's garden lined up with that church over there and came all the way across to where we're sitting. And then the slave and servant quarters were in the back behind. So the reason why I bring all of this up is because we're going to investigate this place for a good 10 to 15 minutes. After I give you the history, we'll kind of show you around a little bit and we'll see what we capture. So if you want to keep listening while I give you the history, by all means do so. You might miss a few key words, but that's okay. I will always slow down with key words that I often hear, so kind of pay attention to those when I start to slow down a little bit. So who the hell were these people? Eliza and Charles had a son named Charles, they had a nephew named Charles. The son and the nephew were signers of the Constitution. Pretty big deal because they were raised here, right? But who cares about politics, especially South Carolina, since you guys are from North Carolina? I don't care about politics either, but if I don't bring it up, they usually do. Eliza married Charles at a young age. I'm not going to tell you what that age is. This is a location where I'm not going to be giving you questions like what color is George Washington's white horse. So it's going to be answers that you get from the spirit box. Again, no subliminal messaging. The young age is according to today's standards. I like to point that out because a lot of people think colonial times she was probably 12 or 14. No, today's standards she was young. Charles was over double her age when they got married, which was a very big deal. When they got married, she married him because her father over in England thought he was dying.
Sister Act.
Interesting. I'm going to keep that one in the back of my brain. We'll see if something else pops up. Her father over in England thought he was dying. He wanted to see all of his kids one last time. She didn't think he was dying, so she stayed put and she got married. This is 1744. There's no such thing as a green card or citizenship. This was all for love. This was a big deal to her. She was right. Dad didn't die right away. So what happened from there was Dad started sending her gifts to this site. One of those gifts happened to be indigo. Indigo is a plant that makes blue dye that makes our blue jeans blue. You're wearing it right now.
Yeah,
it started right here. So it's obviously not warm here all the time. She had to learn from her servants how to keep it cultivated. Her servants were from the Gullah culture, basically agriculturists from Africa. So when she learned it and kept it going, she was able to move it to a plantation in Mount Pleasant, just north of here, and called her dad and said, I need somewhere to sell this. You need to give me some contacts overseas because the rice plantations were going to shit. So basically, he starts giving her contacts, and now we have an international businesswoman in colonial times, which is something absolutely unheard of. So that's the basis of what she's done. Let's get into the weird stuff, because that's why you guys are here. Everybody wants the weird stuff. Eliza was the second wife named Eliza from Charles. In the same year, his first wife, Eliza, died, and then he married this one 6 months later. So, ironically, they both have a maiden name that starts with the letter L, if you want to find out which Eliza we're talking to. So keep in mind we're dealing with 3 Charleses and 2 Elizas. There's another set of multiple names, but we're not going to get into that yet. I want to see if it pops up on the spirit box. Let's see. Eliza's death, you can ask anything you want to. She's pretty open about it. How old were you when you died? Where did you die? What did you die from? And what U.S. president was a pallbearer at your funeral? That tells you how important she was to the colonists. The mansion's obviously not here anymore. You can ask about that. And then you can ask when that tragedy happened. So that might give you some insight on what actually happened here. The children. What'd you get?
Family.
Family shows up here a lot. I'll be surprised if it's on my spirit box too. The kids. I already told you there was at least one. His name was Charles, right? Signer of the Constitution. With the number 11. So that could still be related to Big John, so I'll have to look at that. I don't think that there's an 11 relatable to this story, but I can definitely dive in. But anyway, so the kids, Charles, signer of the Constitution, there was more children. Ask how many, get their names. I think I already spit it out. There was 3 more, so that gives you a total of 4. That's why I was excited about the 4 years. So with your spirit box being slowed down, the other piece that I look at is what color is the big red barn? Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer. I don't need Rudolph the nosed reindeer. I just need red. So it's going to give you words before and after. So like 4 years, I was almost taking that as it's already giving us the answers before we even get over here. Let's see. There's a tragedy among those kids. That's why I ask you don't poke the bear with it. She doesn't want to talk about it. If you bring it up and poke the bear, all activity will stop, and I can pull out an EMF meter right now, and it's probably going berserk, and it will stop. It's the craziest thing. I've seen it dozens of times when I can't keep up with 10 people. I'm literally making rounds with everybody. So if somebody starts going, what happened to your kid? What's the tragedy? All of a sudden, everything goes down.
Shuts down.
Yep, it's crazy. And then later on, I'm like, all right, who asked the question about Eliza's kid? Yep, and normally I get a phone call after the tour.
Gotcha.
I think that about covers the basis of what we can actually find in here. Kind of get you started. If you want to go rogue with questions, and you can ask these questions out loud. Okay. Kind of see what happens. The fact that you already had 4 years and family, like, kind of on the right pace. I don't know where that number 11 comes from. It could be tied to Big John's because we're still only half a block away. Again, we're going to just make small laps here. If we get any kind of spikes out of you of what's actually happening, we don't go in between cars. We don't film cars. We don't do anything near vehicles, especially if somebody's taking a break in their car, because all the restaurant people like to park over here.
Gotcha.
So, where do you guys want to go?
You lead the way. We'll follow you.
Let's go to I usually get quite a bit of activity up here in the hot spot.
Here.
Word pilot showed up, but I'm really sure that that's not relevant to 1744.
42nd. Chick. Associate.
42nd.
Lies.
Numbers and names usually don't lie. So that's where, whenever you say a number, I get excited because I want to know what it means. There's an extra earbud if you want to listen to see what she's actually getting. A lot of times it helps when somebody can verify what you just heard. It's up to you. You don't have to.
Children.
Yeah, family before. A lot different than watching it on TV, isn't it?
Yeah.
Heaven. Prison.
Prison showed up here last night. That's interesting. And I'm going to give you the answers. Like, I'm not going to leave you guys hanging. So before we leave, I obviously review the answers and give you the rest of the history. But again, I like to do it this way so that way you guys aren't preempted with all the answers. Like, oh my God, I just said this. You know what I mean? Anything crazy going on?
Relax. Positive results.
You're good at this. Not many people are.
I can't.
You can't understand that?
She's hitting it right on. I'm just like, what? You got the good job.
Now, there's a lot of people, they can't hear that. They can't separate what's coming through.
Different humor. You just have to concentrate on what you're hearing and not everything going on around you.
Right.
People can't sometimes do that.
Yeah, but you were doing it even as I was talking to you. You were still getting words out of it. So
9 a.m.
9.
303 pieces. Dark side. Worry.
See what's going on with my spirit box? Maybe there's...
Richard?
No, there's no Richards here. Literature and A. Those are weird terms to come up over here. I would actually expect both of those terms to show up later. Literature and A.
Interest? Jesus?
She was very religious. She was Anglican, so she was pretty devout.
Friday? 93?
You heard 93? That's a good one. I'm going to tell you why in a minute.
Buddy?
Eliza,
I don't think Google has anything to do with it either.
Yeah, definitely not. Eliza, can you tell us how old you were when you died?
2013. Bring all.
She's good at this.
Yorktown.
I see a spirit box in your future.
Accommodate.
I'm going to give you like 5 more terms. We'll see if anything else pops up relevant before I spit out some answers to you.
Giant.
New York Giants. Big John.
$187. Earthquake 1887.
1886.
Oh, 86. Okay. Gas. Ramshacked.
She normally do all the talking?
Yes.
Yeah.
See? Point taken. Trying to get him to interact. Alright, one more good one. Come on, you got this. Eliza, tell us how old you were when you died, please.
6.
No.
Radio station.
Come on, Eliza. Give you another minute. All right, tell these folks the rest of your family history here.
Parked. Country.
All right, let me get you some answers because you're actually really good at this, and I will run out of paper if I start writing down everything you say.
Okay.
So I will tell you, like, normally most people can't hear it, or I really have to coax them into like, all right, this is how you're going to do this, but you're like, boom, 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 boom. So again, 50-50. Most of those probably don't mean anything. The 93 was the year she died. 1793. She was 70 years old. She died from breast cancer. It's 1793. We have no idea what the hell breast cancer even is. We're going based off of her medical records. So 9 out of 10 credible websites will tell you it was indeed breast cancer. She was going to Philadelphia for treatments for whatever they thought she had. Let's get away from this guy's vehicle just in case he comes out. People get worried about that. You can stop your video, by the way, kind of give your hands a break. So in Philadelphia is where she died while getting treatments, and that's also where she's buried. So it's another reason why Stories in a Cemetery doesn't take you to actual cemeteries, because you're not going to hang out where you're buried when you're gone. You're going to go to your mansion 600 miles away.
Of course you are.
This is why we come here. 4 kids, like I already mentioned. Charles Thomas, he was a Revolutionary War hero. He got shot in his,
Heading to 5th.
got shot in his left leg, and he was captured. So the prison could be the clue there. I didn't put that piece together until I was thinking about it here when you said it again.
16.
Getting a lot of like digits as far as like teenage digits, which is weird.
How are you?
The next child was the one that I told you not to poke the bear with. Baby George did not make it. We don't know how old exactly George was. Could have been days, could have been weeks. The death certificate basically has the same month and year as his birth and death. There's also no grave for this child, so for the time being, I don't judge.
Always be prepared.
But it's a possibility that the baby was mummified and kept right here in the home, waiting for mom to die so he could be buried with her. Now, also keep in mind, she was buried in Philadelphia. They would have transported this mummified child all the way to Philadelphia by horse and buggy back then. It's a possibility, based on whatever her religious beliefs were Anglican, and searching even on dark web, you can't find a whole lot about mummified babies, and I don't need the FBI knocking on my door. So it's very hard for me to find those kind of religious antics. One last child, her name was Harriet, the only daughter. She actually married in Horry, that's Myrtle Beach area, because it's in Horry County. That's also where she lived. It wouldn't have been a 2.5-hour car ride, lots of letter writing. So I look for things that are based on letters, ink, pen, paper, published, because all of those letters were published in the book of Eliza Lucas Pinckney. Speaking of Eliza Lucas, that was the maiden name, Lucas, of the one who planted the indigo. The first wife, her maiden name was Lamb, as in the animal lamb. Now, back to Eliza's death. I did play a little subliminal trick on you on purpose, just to see if you're subject to subliminal messaging. I told you when we got here I would not give you questions like what color is George Washington's white horse. The pallbearer was indeed George Washington. So you did not come up with that, so now we're dealing with two Georges, but yes, there is a third. Third, baby George was named after Eliza's father. The interesting thing about that is Eliza's maiden name is Lucas, which makes her father George Lucas. You guys are old enough to know that her father did not invent Star Wars, but I like to bring it up because it's just easy for me to remember. If I do that joke with teenagers here, they have no idea and their timelines get all fucked up. Sorry for the language, but that's the only way to explain it. Let's see. The mansion did catch fire in 1861. So I was waiting for either fire, because that shows up often here, or the number 61. I'm very excited about 93. I don't know what you have 9, you have 303, you had another one too, 187. Like, none of that stuff adds up to even. The addresses, dates, nothing in those numbers is like, makes sense to me. Yeah, so I still wrote them all down just in case I could piece it together in the morning. The Great Fire of 1861, like every tour guide talks about a Great Fire of whatever year it happened. This one started at the Harris Teeter up the road, came down here, took out half the mansion, then literally went to the other side of the peninsula. So this was a giant fire. So the fact that the mansion had anything left over after the fire was a natural wonder. The only pictures we have of the mansion are after the fire. So when I give you your links tomorrow, you'll be able to see what the mansion looked like and where you're standing right now. We had nothing related to that
Running
fire.
here.
What was it?
Running here.
Running here. Interesting. What's going to happen? Did I miss any questions? Oh, she was 22 when she got married. Charles was 45. So, again, according to today's standards, 22 is still pretty young getting married. I think I was 22 on my first marriage. Yeah, I was 22. Yeah, I was dumb and stupid. So, remarried, yes. But anyway, by the way, how long have you guys been married?
That's the reason why we're
That's the reason why we're
This is
here.
our anniversary
Monday's
trip.
our anniversary, our 7th anniversary.
Nice, happy anniversary. So mine is actually on my second wife. This is my 5th year anniversary coming up on Wednesday. So I was married 2 days after my divorce.
Was there a MacArthur, something?
I don't know, but it does sound very familiar. There was something political, could have been involved with, obviously, the Pinckney family. I'm going to write it down. But yeah, I was married 2 days after my divorce. The courts forced us to get married. Believe it or not.
No worries. My dad got remarried 2 weeks after my parents' divorce.
Well, in order for my wife to be around my kids, we had to be married. So
Yep.
I got married.
You did what you had to do.
Yep.
Plans?
MacArthur.
Infinity?
Alright, so from here, what we're going to do is you're going to keep listening. You're going to give your hands a break. We're going to go to Lodge Alley. We have a lot to go on, not to mention whatever I spot check and find out of it, so we'll kind of see what, I mean, you have good stuff. It's solid. They have and plus we have the word giant. I was pretty excited about that too, because we're still close to Big John. But again, we're dealing with an intelligent ghost here. You ask questions, you get answers. The next place we go to is not that way. It's what we call a residual. I'm sure you've heard that term before. It's kind of like watching a movie. It just plays over and over and over again. And we're going to talk about in this location of why. You're not going to record until we actually get to Lodge Alley. Again, we're going to be walking down East Bay Street. People get weird. Keep listening. listening for names. I'm not going to tell you what the names are. No more subliminal tricks, I promise. But I do need to kind of test you to see like where you're at with subliminal messaging. That's why I don't give you everything at the beginning. The names could be either gender. I'm not going to tell you what they are. I will tell you what I commonly hear, and we're right in the middle of the loop. It's not a great possibility that we'll actually get the names that I normally hear, but I'll be interested to see what you do get. Okay. So it'll be very interesting in this alley. It is a quick stop, so it just kind of gives you the layout of the land. Okay. So, questions, comments, concerns so far? Nope. Is this what y'all thought you were getting yourselves into?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I could tell you're into it, but you're really hard to read, man.
It's probably he'll talk about for the next month. He'll want to come back down and he'll come like this.
Well, the thing is that you guys I do try to change it up from time to time.
Okay.
But I do give time for people to come back to see me again.
Okay.
So if you call, it's not like you don't have my phone number.
Yeah.
This wall is not original, it's a painting. So this even belongs to a restaurant called Norway Galaxies.
Okay. Norway Beach?
Yeah. Yeah, there is one. Yeah, on weekdays like this, especially when it's chillier down here, it's like you have the whole city for itself. It's wonderful. I love it.
Razor?
Like a car commercial? Like a Land Rover?
The devil.
Yeah, we're on a weird moon phase with your tour tonight too, so it's kind of like in between the quarter and the next couple of months. It's very weird. I really didn't know how much to expect out of this. Okay.
Years old?
So at the top of your guys' data page tomorrow, you'll see a list of like all the tools that I use, how to get them, free apps that you can use on your own, you know, that kind of thing. So if you guys ever have questions about them, obviously you can get a hold of me.
Brand?
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 Brand. I'll write it down. Is it making predictions now? So what were the other tours that you guys took? Like in Charleston, do you remember when they were?
One was Offshore, and another one was Mike Brown. Yep. And we did one, we did another one at the jail. Hold on.
No, they're not doing the jail.
They're not? You do some crap like that.
That was funny. I seen him crawling and I'm like, he's either drunk or gonna scare the shit out of her. That's gonna be awesome.
It's like it's a historic building.
Alright, we're gonna go. The driver picking his nose. Y'all see that? That was cool. I love saying stuff like that because you guys get it on the audio later. Burn. Good one. You guys are listening to the audio later and I'm cracking jokes. You're gonna remember that damn Uber driver that was picking his nose.
Chicago?
That's where my guests were from last night. That's funny.
Celebration?
They just had a fire there a few months ago, and it's been under renovation. But I didn't know they were redoing the whole damn restaurant. That's amazing. It's one of the pit stops everybody goes to.
Yeah, Magnolias, yeah.
So, all right. So we have Fran, we have Burn. Just talk about the fire here. But there are also many fires in this alley.
Down.
So, let me first tell you where you're at. So if you want to turn that on, you can. Just give us a little bit of footage. We're now inside the walled city because Charleston used to be called Charlestown, walled city. People used to live here. That's why I ask for names. The names I commonly get are Benjamin and John. I get them about every 6 to 7 weeks. I don't find a coincidence that it's the same two names every single time. The only interesting thing I can find about Benjamin and John is that they both lived here in 1801. I have no other significant event or anything. It could be that they're just rotating around. So, bricks you're walking on, these are Belgian ones, which means they're made purely of granite. If you know anything about the supernatural, anything coming straight from the earth is said to hold on to the consciousness of memories, which could be the reason why I'm getting the same names every 6 to 7 weeks. Before people lived here, these buildings weren't here, by the way. So these were little tiny shotgun houses that these people lived in. So 1 to 2 room, not 2 bedroom, 1 to 2 room houses. And the other side of the wall would have been across the street over there on East Bay Street. Smell of low tide coming here all the time. So it makes sense that these people were lower class. Even after they did the archaeological dig here, they did find some of their tools and silverware and clothing and figured out that these people were lower class people. Before the residents, the Freemasons had their Masonic Lodge here, which is why it's called Lodge Alley, from the Masonic Lodge. We do get terms like Mason, Freemason, Brick, and Illuminati shows up here from time to time. So it's just very interesting when we get those kind of terms. We don't get things often around the Freemasons, but when we do, it's definitely right on cue. It's usually within that 6 to 7 week loop that I get. So it is just possible that I'm dealing with the stone tape theory down here with you guys, and that every 6 to 7 weeks I get the same names over and over and over again. No relevance other than the fact that they're here. That's it. People have also heard children laughing on those spirit boxes. They've heard the word children often, giggling, toddlers, anything relatable to that. As we walk through the alley, you're going to get obviously some video footage. You're going to keep listening and blurting out whatever you hear. When we exit the alley, Derek, you're going to stop your video because we're going to be cutting through a neighborhood. I'm going to take you through another alley, but we're not allowed to be in residential areas, so I can't take you down that alley because I have been booted out. Not a very fun thing to say to my guests, but yeah, but I'll explain why once we get to that area. I still tell the story, and it's very interesting that I have terms relatable to that story that we got at the Pinckney Mansion site. So I'll explain what those are once we get there. But once we get out of this place, we're just going to cut through the neighborhood so we can get to the other alley, and then we can continue on. So just be careful as we walk through here. The bricks do get very uneven down there by that dark spot, so just kind of high step it if you can, and let's see if we can capture it.
Second sad. Baby?
Baby. That baby always shows up.
Huh?
You're going to see why that's relevant.
$10? Or the number 10?
10 again. $10 might be something that they paid for their house. So, it's a possibility.
Exploited?
Very generic, but a good term. So I gotta look up Fran. Here's Burn. Baby. That one.
Betty?
Betty. I'm talking about Betty White. Oh, look. Any kids?
Yeah.
How many you got? Where are they?
Home.
Too little to be out here?
The youngest is 5.
Oh.
Yeah.
I've had 4-year-olds looking over.
Barney? Boys?
Alright, you can cut your video. Philadelphia alley behind me.
We went down through there earlier today.
Okay, do you know the story down there?
He was telling me a little bit about it.
The whistling doctor?
Nah.
What do you know?
I just watched a video there talking about that's where people used to go duel.
Dueling.
Yeah.
And there's bullet holes down through there which we couldn't find.
I'll show you what to look for down there. So,
Crying in your money.
You might want to lower your camera. We've got people walking around. I know, I give a lot of direction with that. I should be a director instead of a tour guide. So, with the alley behind me, it is where people used to duel. We all tell the same story of a duel that actually occurred because we can prove that it happened. And with us actually ghost hunting and looking for real history, this is a great legit story, and I do get a shit ton of evidence from it. So just keep in mind on my word list, remind me to tell you what they mean. I had the letter A show up, and I also had the word literature show up, and they were back to back. And that was over at the Pinckney Mansion site, only 2 blocks from here. So it's a possibility it's relatable to here.
Picking up, yeah.
Doubtful, but it's like, holy shit, why are they showing up here? So there was a doctor that moves down here from Rhode Island. He moves down here because his fiancée, Amanda, which starts with the letter A, just inherited a bunch of money.
You can follow.
From her dead parents. So she has an attorney helping her
Breaking out.
with all of this money that she's got, and he thinks the doctor's just after her cash. So he tells her to get rid of the doctor. So he moves to Charleston to prove that he's not just after her money. So as he's being brought into town,
love life.
the coachman set him up to be robbed and killed. So it wasn't a very good start. This was uptown, not in a very good neighborhood. Somebody walking by named Ralph Isaacs. He has the same initials as where the doctor came from, Rhode Island. So when we get RI or R's that show up quite often around here, I need a secondary clue so I know who it relates to. One's the doctor, one is Ralph. Which, by the way, the doctor's name is Joseph Brown Ladd. So I say those slowly so that way you can get them. And a lot of times with the evidence, I give you like his gravesite, I give you the other story, so that way you have it in print. But anyway, the doctor, well, Ralph sees what's about to happen.
Mortgage.
He sees, that the doctor's going to be killed, and he says, hey man, you don't want to stay here. These guys are going to try to kill you. There's somebody inside ready to shoot you. So he's like, I got some friends at 59 Church Street. You can rent a room from them. So he takes him to 59 Church Street, which is right up the road here, and he rents the room. Ralph and the doctor become friends. The doctor's practice takes off. So he's making lots of money on his own, meaning Amanda's going to be moving down soon. He becomes known as the Whistling Doctor because he whistled all the time. He's in a great mood. Him and Ralph go see plays together, but because the doctor makes so much more money, they can't sit next to each other. The doctor gets better seats. It's kind of like going to see movies, and he makes more money than you, so he gets better seats than you. So they talk about the plays on the way home. One night they go see William III from Shakespeare. They're arguing over the actress that was in town. The doctor loves the new actress, Ralph does not. So it gets very ugly, and Ralph starts insulting the doctor's fiancée, Amanda, back home.
703.
Close. But you did hit your 7. So keep that one in mind. I have to write that one down. But anyway, so they go their separate ways after this big argument. Ralph's insulting Amanda. Ralph is from here, so he's got friends at the newspaper. So he goes over to the newspaper and puts an ad in the paper telling the whole city what he thinks of the doctor. The doctor sees the ad that basically Ralph called him an asshole in public, and he rebuttals with, let's go to Dueler's Alley, we're going to settle this. So they come down, they take the 20 paces, they turn, the doctor points his gun in the air.
Broke his hand.
Sand?
Broke his hand.
Oh, broke his hand. I thought you said sand. Doctor points his gun in the air and he shoots. He didn't want to kill Ralph. He just wanted to prove a point, show that he had the courage and bravery to show up to the fight. Ralph, however, has his one bullet, and he puts it in the kneecap on the doctor, so the doctor didn't die. The doctor is picked up, carried home to 59 Church Street, and he dies 10 days later after refusing medical treatment. Remember, he's a doctor. He probably tried to heal himself by bleeding it out. So we do get the term bleeding out a lot here, which is weird. It's not something you normally hear on the radio or on a spirit box. So again, when we get that stuff, it's very relevant. They say as you walk through this alley, turn on your voice recorders, you can hear the whistles from the doctor. That's why they call him the Whistling Doctor. Granted, every haunted city has a whistler. You can go to Savannah, they have a whistler. Most cities I've been in have a whistler. Ours just happens to be a doctor. They also say you can hear gunshots. I don't have any proof of gunshots, but the whistles, you have to keep in mind too, if you're listening on your voice recorder later on, anybody that knows the story, all of us locals, we're going to throw a whistle down the alley if you're walking down Cumberland or Queen Street on the other side. We all throw a whistle down the alley. I do it every night on my way back to my garage. It's just shits and giggles because I'm pissed I can't take you guys down there anymore. What you should be looking for when you go down there wasn't necessarily the bullet holes, but those bricks at the end are sun-dried bricks from slave children.
Yeah, you can see the handprints.
There's a handprint and a lot of fingerprints if you look closely. So the handprint is about 14 to 16 bricks in from the Queen Street side, just right of center. So you can see it, it's pretty plain. That's part of the reason why I got booted out of there. Everybody wants to put a spirit box, an EMF meter, do a little session around this brick with the handprint in it. I treat it the same way I do as a grave. Nobody's going to hang out there. That poor kid doesn't want to see that freaking brick that he had to turn over and left his handprint and turned it up the wrong way. Because there's probably a lot of handprints on the side, underneath. This one just happens to be on top. He put it in the wrong way. He's not hanging out over there. Well, the new neighbor came out and started screaming at me. So I got a phone call the next day from the tourism office, and this is why I rerouted the tour up to where we're going tonight. That was about a year ago. The dates of that specific incident are very relevant to the tour, and I'll explain why once we get going through. I said the word literature came through at the Pinckney Mansion site too, next to the letter A. That's relevant because the doctor wrote poetry about his life and times here in Charleston and about his love of Amanda, and it was published later by his sister Elizabeth, and she called it The Literary Remains of Dr. Joseph Brown Ladd. So when I see literature in the letter A, I get excited, but I was waiting for it to happen here. So you have a lot of weird terms that came through. You said broke his hand, like that's weird. I don't know why that would have came about, because I don't know anything about a broken hand in this story, but that is very specific. So I'm excited about it. I am going to write it down, and the number 7. So the doctor was born July 7th, 7-7. So we're also very close to John Calhoun's sarcophagus. So the number 7 I have to be careful with because he was our 7th vice president. So birthdays, if you hear it again, another 7. You heard what, 703?
Yeah.
So when you hear it again, I definitely know we're going to stay relatively close to this alley the rest of our time together. But if you hear the name John or something else relatable to the doctor, I just need that secondary clue so I know who it belongs to. So normally his 7 comes as twice. So that's how I go by with that. This is a great story. We didn't really get much while we were here, besides the number 7, which I was like, oh, okay, we got 7. But again, broke his hand is weird to me. Like, that's a very specific thing.
Yeah.
You did hear the word baby coming out of Lodge Alley, so let's go talk about this baby, because she's been really on me the past couple of tours that I've had.
Okay. Certain things from God.
Getting close to St. Philip's Church, you're going to hear a lot of religious terms. It's very common. What I do have here is old finance, and that probably just showed up as we were coming out of Lodge Alley. I have all of them.
Rescue me. Back to life.
I used to say, back at the Pinckney Mansion site, where I give the example of, like, you're not going to be hanging out where you're buried, and I used to say 400 miles away. So I literally looked it up the other day. It's about 600 miles. That's what I told you guys tonight. And then you said back to life. The other interesting thing about where we're at is that her husband is buried right over there. She is not. She's in Philadelphia. That's Eliza from the Pinckney Mansion site. You guys can have a seat. We're going to chill here for a few minutes. So, man, I'm still getting a weird read on you, man. Like, you're so quiet. Like, God. How did you get into, like, your job? Like, I'm just curious.
That's what my dad does.
Okay.
Yeah.
You just seem very reserved to be that. I don't want to say, like, it's a weird characteristic to work on vehicles, but it is a weird character to work
Something even weirder is
This team.
I'm a professional wrestler too.
Really?
For like the last 20 years.
So, in what circuit?
It's just like independent. Like I've done some stuff with WWE before.
Okay.
And I've been about all over the East Coast wrestling.
And do you have a name that I would recognize?
It's my real name.
Okay.
Derek Driver. So.
Interesting. I have some friends back home in Ohio that are
Character.
wrestlers. He calls himself the Bouncer. He's also an actor, so he does like B movies, like B horror movies.
Yeah.
You know, like that's his thing. But his real name is John Cataline, and he is he's a crazy character. Like his TikToks to me are hysterical because he's an actor. You know what I mean? But that's interesting that you're into wrestling too. Like, God, you're like throwing me off, man, with all these weird characteristics, being so quiet. So, do you have like any kind of like major theme that you go with the wrestling, or is you just like there's the Undertaker, and you know I'm going old school, of course.
Not. I mean, it's like more of the. It's. I guess it would be more of your
December.
Ric Flair type. You know, like.
Okay.
Showboat kind of.
Okay. December is good. Remind me to write that one down. Got lots to write down with you. All right, so let's talk about a few things. You can probably cut that here for at least for a few good stuff. We'll hang out longer. If not, we'll wrap it up. Oh, look at that.
Gender.
I can't make this shit up.
How are we doing in this? Bye.
How many kids did she have?
4. 5?
1 in Cuba, 4 after she moved back.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Very interesting.
Puzzle?
Your camera likes to act up in here, so it would just start doing crazy shit. I've seen it turn off other devices. I've seen it do weird stuff in this lot. When she's here and I have great stuff going on, your camera is usually the first indication of that. You'll see white lines going through the screen.
Never gone.
Never gone.
Get inside.
Can't get inside.
Not in the summer. Medication. I'm not gonna sit there.
Come on, Ian. Gotta get close to it. Damn, you gave me a lot of notes tonight. You're lucky I typed 90 words a minute. So at St. Philip's for like December.
Sons of the Desert.
Didn't you have a number over there as well?
What's that?
Didn't you have a number over by St. Philip's Church while we were sitting there?
I don't remember what it was then.
But December, I want to say is something relative to here.
Staff changed. In love.
Dude, she's good at this. Like it's I'm sorry, it's an anomaly for somebody like you that can just keep spitting stuff out all night long.
Oh yeah.
I don't get it very often, so I'm excited because you're able to give me stuff.
Loving my actual.
But you had the word love twice though.
Finger bender. Significant.
Let's move back here. Looks like we got some tours that are gonna be present.
Do you understand?
Three. Messiah.
That's definitely not relevant here.
No.
Not during those times. Oh, I told you there was a date that was significant with me getting kicked out of Philadelphia Alley. That was Thanksgiving, the day before Thanksgiving, 2020. So I had to reroute things very quickly because I got a phone call on the day after Thanksgiving. So I was like, all right, shit. So that night, I obviously had a full tour. I bring them up here. I tell them what I know of the story, and somebody hears the number 300. I'm like, all right, I have no idea what that means, but I'm going to write it down. So I go back and I look it up. We are here November 28th,
Due date.
2020. We are on the 300th anniversary of her trial.
Wow.
and we had her name come through. So I was like, all right, I guess I'm a believer in the pirate story now. I got to keep coming back. So a year now, a year and a couple of months, I still keep getting evidence, so I know it's a hit or miss.
All these things.
How long you guys staying? In
Till
town?
Sunday. Friday.
It's the second time you had that.
War.
See if you get how many.
Shoes.
Shoes.
The best part. Valentine's Day.
You're getting a lot of lovey-dovey stuff, huh?
Yeah, I guess with Valentine's Day coming up, it's probably.
Yeah, but you had love twice. Valentine's Day.
Tango.
Takes two.
It goes off. 2,000 years. Eight, 5. 9th.
Remember, she was 84 when she died. And it's up for speculation of when she was actually born. It says anywhere between 1697 and 1802. So,
She could have been 85.
well, could have been the year 85.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's definitive that she died when she was 84. We just don't
Okay.
know when she was born.
4.
So if it was 1801, or 1800 even, because again, it's up for speculation. It's weird, because we had something like that pop up last night too, and I had to kind of do the math a little bit.
100 million. Really was my dad.
I don't know what this word is. The second one down.
Celerin? Celerin? Celar?
But I don't know what it is.
I don't know.
Recession. That's interesting. I'm going to look up Salaran right now and see what the hell it means. Because I'm not too stupid to say I don't know something. Right? If you don't know what it is, you got to look it up, see if it's relevant.
2.
George getting a number 2 as well.
It hurts. Fundamental.
Yeah, that's like a Jewish or Arabic. Like it's, I can't make it out.
They had my back.
It's a good one. Yeah, I have no idea what this is. It says it's Malaysian.
The neighbor.
That's so on the other side of the powder magazine is the Chief Justice House of Nicholas Trout, the one that captured, or the one that hung, Steve Bonnet.
Yeah.
On his men. They say he lived there, but it's a misnomer. He only stayed there while his house was being accustomed to him, where the Dock Street Theater sits now, because in between Planters Hotel and Duxbury Theater, there was other things. So it's weird because if you go to
Where to look?
where you if you go to the back courtyard of Dock Street Theater, there's an elevator back there. That's where Nicholas Trott's privy was. So basically, you're riding in his shitter. Like that's where that was. Like it was outside. So it is a misnomer.
There's a team.
We were just hanging out in that courtyard today.
Were you?
Yeah,
That's where Nicholas Trott actually lived.
I seen that elevator.
Husband.
And the reason why there's so much history with the Dock Street Theater, they didn't want to take away from it, so they put it on the house where he stayed. Now keep in mind, that house, it goes all the way back to the cemetery. So I mean, it's a big house, but he didn't stay there for very long, so they were waiting on that to be finished.
Downtown. A path.
Come on, give me one more solid piece.
Are you mad at me?
No. You did a good job. Anything weird coming up on there? I'm not getting much on this one either.
Three words.
I like gender showing up here. Like that's a big one.
Yeah.
And the number 5, that's a good one too. But everything else is pretty vague. Alright guys, let's wrap this party up.